Hi, and welcome to Classic Quilts Dubai. My name is Julius. I'm a self-taught sewist. I'm a sewing blogger and a sewing teacher. And today, we are going to be teaching you the ultimate sewing beginner project. I love designing my own patterns. I love making my own clothes. It makes me feel so happy. And for today, if you are a beginner or if you are just starting to sew, you are in for a treat because we are going to be showing you the simple and the most basic techniques on how to create your very first sewing project. So what we're going to be doing today are actually two simple projects. They are both called zippered pouch. The first one is just a basic pouch with a zipper on it. And the second one is a zipper pouch that is quilted from the outside. And both projects are actually great for beginners. You can sew this in an hour or two. And you're going to be learning a lot of skills. Like you're going to be learning how to create your own pattern. You're going to learn how to work with your fabric, cut your fabric. You'll also learn how to fuse the interfacing onto your fabric. And most importantly, the zipper installation. We're going to be teaching you how to sew and install a zipper using the sewing machine that you have at home. So, I know you're excited. If you're ready, let's get started. So the materials that we're going to need today are actually very simple to look for. You can find them in old sewing shops, sewing notions, quilting shops, and they're actually very easy to find and work with. So the first, of course, the most important thing that you're going to need is your fabric. So we have the two fabrics right here. I have this blue one. This is going to be the main fabric shell. Well, if you're working with your own project, I'm pretty sure you want something that's decorative and colorful. You have the liberty to choose what fabric to use from. The second thing is the lining. So the lining, it can be different colors as well. You can use whatever you have at home. And this is also a quilting cotton, but it's actually just a plain beige calico fabric. All right, this is what we're going to be using for the lining. The next thing that you're going to need is a fusible interfacing. All right, so there are actually a lot of fusible interfacing out there in the market. The one I have here is a medium weight. All right, so fusible interfacing is also, it's actually a fabric, but one side is bumpy. All right, so the bumpy side has actually the glue bubbles in it. So it's very bumpy. This is where you actually put on top of the wrong side of the fabric and then use an iron to fuse it. But later on, we're going to be showing you how to work with this. The next thing that you're going to be using is the batting. The batting is, it comes in different types as well. So what I have here is a polyester batting. I have used this for my quilts before and it works just fine. So this will actually eventually give body to the zippered quilted pouch that we have. All right. The next thing that we are going to need is some pattern making supplies. Pattern making supplies can be a variety of different papers, materials. Today we're just going to be using a plain A4 size paper, all right? Because we are not going to be working on a big project. This is a small project, so this is good enough. The next thing, of course, you need a pencil or a Sharpie. Sharpie, I'm going to be using that today because I want you to see the lines that I've drawn on my paper. And if you do have a fabric marker available, this is washable. You are going to use that as well because it will be very handy when it comes to quilting the other zippered pouch. And the next thing is you're going to be needing cutting tools, of course. So I have the fabric shears right here. You need a fabric shears or fabric scissors, all right, to cut your fabric. And you're going to need some paper scissors. Don't mix paper with your, with your paper scissors with your fabric scissors. They will get dull eventually. The next thing is a clipper. If you don't have this, it's fine, totally fine. You can work with the project without this, but this is very good, especially when you're snipping threads. The next thing is the zipper. All right, this is actually a 21-inch zipper that I have here. I would highly recommend that you use a long zipper rather than a small one. The next thing that you will need is a thread. All right, the thread that I have here is, all right, it's baby pink. All right, you might want to match your thread with the fabric that you're using. But for our purposes today, I'm going to be using this so that you can see the line of stitching that I make. Okay. For the thread, you can use cotton thread or polyester thread. I would recommend an all-purpose sewing thread. Anything works fine. Of course, don't use those specialty threads. It will not work on this project. Right? The next thing is, this is a quilting ruler. It has grids on it. It's very handy. Right? This is going to be the guide on how to create our pattern. So if you do have this, it's amazing. But if you do have the regular ruler, you know, like the 12-inch ruler, that's totally fine as well. It will work. So whatever you have at home, you can use those. You don't have to go out right now and, you know, purchase whatever I have here on the table. Okay. The next thing that you will need is some pins and a pin cushion. This is a wrist pin cushion. So I like this because it's very handy. You can just put it on your wrist so that when you sew, you don't have pins scattered everywhere, you know, and then you have a hard time like trying to look for them. All right. So if you do have any pin cushions at home, use that. Don't necessarily have to get this. Totally fine. All right. And one important tool that we are going to use today is an iron. All right. I have a very small iron here. If you have the regular size iron, totally fine. You can use that. But this has a steam on it. All right, we're going to be needing steam, especially when we're fusing the interfacing to our fabric. So have your iron ready, and comes with that, of course, is the pressing mat or the ironing board. So if you do have a cutting mat that has the pressing mat on it, you can use that totally fine. So pretty much these are the materials that we are going to need. All right, if you're ready, let's start pattern making. So now into pattern making, right? So this is a very simple pattern to do. You just need to cut out a rectangle. So what I have here is my paper, my ruler. You can use a pencil if you want to, but for our purposes today, I want you to see the lines that I've drawn on the paper. So I'm going to be using a Sharpie. Okay, all right. So I'm just going to mark out 10 inches on my paper. So I'm going to mark it below 10 inches. And then I'm going to make a mark right here. All right. So once you did that, what you're going to do is you're going to measure like up 8 inches. And that's going to be the width of the pouch. Okay, so I'm going to draw a line 8 inches long. All right, and what you're going to do next is you're just going to have to draw the length of the bag, which is obviously 10 inches. So I just want to make sure that I'm aligned with the edges of my ruler to the paper so that I can get a straight line and a 90-degree angle. And that's it. You're done with the pattern of the pouch. So for you not to be able to lose this, especially if you're going to make more of these in the future, I would prefer like labeling it. You can say just like write zippered pouch. Okay, and for cutting instructions, so that you don't get confused in the future, what you're going to do is you have to label like how many pieces of fabric that you're going to cut. So this is what I do all the time. It's a habit. which is a good habit, of course, especially if you are going to do a lot of patterns in the future. So the zippered pouch, I need to cut, I'll just mention, cut 2 fabric and cut 2 lining, and I need to cut 2 inner facing. Alright, so now if you do have a medium weight fabric that you're going to use in the future, you really don't need to use interfacing, right? Because interfacing is essentially a stabilizer for the fabric to give it a sturdy look, like a body to it, right? It will make it a little bit hard, like the texture, so that you know your pouch doesn't look like it's wrinkling and it looks like it's too thin. That's what you're gonna do. Okay, so the next thing that I'm gonna do is to cut this fabric using my paper scissors. So I'm just gonna get my paper scissors. I'm going to get these lines cut right here. Now the question is, do you cut inside the lines or outside the lines? So what I did here, I cut outside the line because you don't want to cut your your pattern lines, your pattern markings, because you want to see like where it really ends. Okay, so I'm just cutting it carefully, just like this. Okay, make sure that your cutting is straight, and there you have it. You have your very simple zippered pouch pattern. Okay, so let's get into cutting the fabric. So now we're gonna cut our fabric. So set aside the pattern for now. I'm going to get my main fabric, which is right here. What I'm going to do is to cut out my pattern using this fabric. The length of the pouch is going to be parallel to the cut edge, all right? And the width of the pouch is going to be parallel to the selvage. And then I'm going to get my pins, put it on my wrist, right? And then I'm going to just pin all the way around. Okay, so now I'm all pinned here. I'm going to get my fabric scissors, and then I'm going to cut this out. So since it's folded, okay, I'm gonna get 2 out of this fabric. I'm gonna set this fabric aside, and I'm going to get the lining fabric. So as I have mentioned, the lining fabric is just plain beige calico, and I also got half of a yard of this. So you're going to do the same thing for the lining fabric. So the interfacing that I have here is a medium weight interfacing, which is really good, especially for this project. So now we are going to fuse the interfacing to the main fabric shell. Alright, so you're going to get your fabric pieces together, right? And you're going to get the interfacing. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to get one fabric and then I'm going to position it like so. So remember that the bumpy side goes to the wrong side of the fabric. Okay, make sure they're lined up correctly and properly, and make sure it's flat. You can just flatten it out. And using my iron, so I already have my iron hot, I'm going to just position the iron on one side of the fabric. Okay, in fusing you don't have to move the iron a lot because it will create bumps and sometimes the interfacing won't fuse properly to the fabric. So I'm just going to use steam. Okay, I have the iron on its steam setting, and then I'm just going to position the iron on areas of the fabric just for a few seconds. Alright, so it's fused. As you can see, they're single fabric, they're just one. And just to make it more smooth, I'm just going to iron the right side of the fabric. Okay, I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to work on the other fabric. So the same way, bumpy side to the wrong side of the fabric. Alright, so now we are ready to sew. So you're gonna get your two fabric, right? I'm just gonna put this aside. I'm gonna work on one right now. Get your zipper. As you can see, the zipper is long. I have mentioned that earlier because this will give us a lot of wiggle room when we work on it. And you don't have to worry about the pull being sewn, which can cause your needle to break if you accidentally sew on it. So what you're going to do is, with your fabric right sides up, I'm going to position the zipper right sides facing down, just like this. So of course the right side is where you can see the zipper pull. So when you open it like that, it looks like that. So close the zipper, position the zipper face down, and the edge of the tape should align the edge of the fabric. And I'm going to pin. So I'm going to pin perpendicular to the fabric. All right. So don't pin a lot because it might distort the zipper when you sew it. Okay. The reason why I'm doing this is because I'm going to show you the zipper foot, how it's going to be installed. So we're done. I already have the machine ready here. So the zipper foot only has one side on it, so as you can see right here. So I'm going to install it. The zipper foot has a bar, and this bar will be the attachment to the shank. So what I'm going to do is position it like this. Alright, right below the groove. The groove is the one that's going to attach to the bar of the foot. Okay, so this is called a snap-on presser foot, which is very easy to install. Once you hear that click, it means they're one. So if you move the shank, they should move as one as well. Alright, so the space is actually on the right of me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch this down, but I'm going to place my fabric onto the right side of my machine, or to the right side of the needle. So I'm going to stitch right into the middle of the zipper tape. So you're going to align the tape to the edge of the presser foot. So the edge of the tape to the edge of the presser foot. That will be your guideline. Okay, so I'm going to sew. Alright, so when starting sewing, I always do lower the presser foot, of course, and the needle. So I'm going to lower the needle so that I would know where to start sewing. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing. I don't have to necessarily backstitch. Okay, and as you approach the pin, you just have to remove it. Okay, so raise your needle, raise the presser foot, and I'm gonna use my clippers, clip those threads. Okay, so I already have my zipper sewn on one side of the fabric. So clip those threads. So this is how it's gonna look like. Now, using the other fabric, we are going to sew to the other side of the zipper tape. So what you're going to do is open up the zipper like this, and you're going to position the fabric face down onto the right side of the zipper. So right sides to right sides, as always. Like this. So as you can see, if you turn it like upside down, it's gonna look like this. So we are going to sew this side of the zipper, aligning our zipper tape to the presser foot. All right. Great, so now we've sewn the fabric shell onto the zipper. So what we're going to do next is we're going to stitch the lining down onto our fabric. Alright, so get your two lining pieces. I'm just going to get one for now. So what you're going to do is you're going to flatten out this piece right here, just like this. Okay, so the zipper should be facing you, should be facing up. And we're going to put the lining onto the wrong side of the zipper. So it's going to be wrong side to wrong side. So if you're working on a fabric that has prints, most definitely you have the wrong side and the right side. So I'm going to pin it in place. Okay. Wait. Alright, so it's pinned down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow the line of stitching that I did earlier. Trim those threads. Okay, and you're gonna do the same thing to the other side. And I'm going to trim those threads. Alright, so now we have sewn our lining pieces and the fabric shell. What we're going to do next is really cool. Alright, first you have to open up the fabric pieces that you made. So the next thing that we're going to do is to do a top stitching on both sides of the zipper teeth. Alright? Top stitching is just basically stitching right on the top. So it's going to be visible when your project is finished. So like I mentioned earlier, if you have a thread that matches your fabric, that is great. That's really great. But if you want to have a more dramatic effect, you can use a contrasting thread. You can use a top stitch thread, and it will really be visible when you're done with it. But before doing that, I want this to be pressed very nicely. So I'm gonna get my ironing board and my iron. I'm going to just gently press both sides, so that when I go to the machine, it'll be easier and it'll be flat. So now I am done pressing this, so I'm going to top stitch this. So remember, I'm using a pink thread right here, so it's going to show up. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to stitch, alright, 1/8 of an inch away from the edge of the fabric. I'm going to do it on both sides. I'm going to do the second side. So I'm done top stitching both sides. Alright, so I'm now done top stitching the fabric, the zipper I mean. So now the most exciting part is closing up the bag. So let me show you how to do that. The very next thing that you're going to do is very important, alright? Because we're going to close up this bag. So what you need to do first, you have to remember this, is to open up the zipper halfway through. And you're going to place the fabric right sides together, just like this, okay? Place it just like this, and what you're going to do is you're going to pin. Now when it comes to the zipper, you are going to fold the zipper facing towards the lining. So the fold is going to be towards the lining. Just like this. Alright, so I'm pinned around. What I'm going to do over here onto the lining side, this is also very important, we are going to leave a 3 to 4 inches gap on the stitching because you need a hole to turn the bag inside out. So I'm just gonna make a mark, I'm just gonna I will not place any pins right here so that I would remember that I don't have to sew over there. Okay, so I'm going to start sewing onto the lining fabric. But as I have mentioned, we need to leave at least 3 to 4 inches gaps on the stitching so that we can turn the fabric right side out. So I'm going to align the edge of my fabric to the 1/2 inch mark, which is right here. You should have that on your machine. It's on the throat plate. So the throat plate is the metal plate right here. You have markings there. All right. Look for the 1/2 inch mark. Okay. So when you approach the end of the fabric, you are going to pivot. Pivoting means turning the fabric at an angle, just like this. All right. So it's like almost like a 90-degree angle that I did here. So you're just going to turn it, rotate the fabric with the needle down. That's very important. And you have to lower the pressure foot down again to start sewing. Okay, so now I have cut both zipper ends. What I'm going to do is to reduce the bulk on the corners. I'm going to trim those corners right here. Alright, you're just trimming like a triangular shape, cut on all corners so that when you turn the fabric right side out, you won't have those bulk at the corners. So now that you've trimmed all sides, all corners, we're going to turn the bag right side out. So the hole that I made here, I'm going to reach right inside, and then I'm going to turn this thing right side out. So now that you have turned your bag right side out, what you're gonna do is you're going to reach for the lining fabric, of course. And since there's still a hole in there, we are going to edge stitch that hole. And that is to close up the hole that we made, that we left there. Right. So you can do this by hand, or what I'm gonna do is just gonna go right straight to the sewing machine and edge stitch that hole right there. And I'm done. So now that we are done sewing the bag, we're going to give it a final touch. So as you can see, you have the zipper already installed, you have the lining, and the color, right? It's amazing. So what you need to do to make it a little bit more beautiful is we're going to just lightly press it with an iron. Okay, and there you have it, your very first zippered pouch. It has a zipper, a lining, and an interfacing, just to give it a little bit body. Okay, so we're gonna move on to our next project. Our next project is pretty much the same as this. It's actually called a quilted zippered pouch. Now, the preparation is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to show you that in a little while. But the rest, the construction, the sewing process is going to be the same as this. Alright, for the quilted zippered pouch, what we're going to need is, actually these are the remaining materials that we have used a while ago. So you still need the fabric, you have the lining, the batting, you have the zipper, of course, you still have that, clippers, scissors, the pins and the pin cushion, and lastly, since we are going to do a little bit of quilting, I would recommend that you get a walking foot. If you don't have one, that's totally fine. It will still work. I'll show you how it works on the machine. Alright, so the very first step in our process is you're going to get the fabric that you have left, the remaining fabric. So we are going to use the remaining half, okay? So what I'll do is I'm going to get the pattern that I used a while ago, this one, and I'm going to just roughly estimate like how much fabric I'm going to be using. So I want to have 2 layers of fabric but folded, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it right here, right on the center. Alright, and then I'm just going to pin just a few. And then I'm going to just roughly cut. Alright. So this is how it's going to look like. Okay? I'm going to be doing that the same on the lining fabric. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to get the batting and the 2 pieces of fabric. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to open up this fabric. Alright, and then I'm going to put the batting right on top of it. And then I'm going to put the fabric, the colored fabric, right on top of the batting. So basically, I'm actually making a sandwich here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pin every few inches or so. So once it's all pinned down, what we're going to do is we're going to do lines of stitching. So the lines of stitching that I'm going to do right here is I'm going to do diagonal lines. So I'll start here, 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 alright, until I finish off the edge, alright? Once that's done, what you're going to do is you're going to just rotate it a little bit, okay? And what you're going to do is you're going to stitch it on the opposite side. So you're like making a crisscross lines of stitching. Okay, so I have cut out my quilted fabric. As you can see, I have 2 pieces right here. Look at how beautiful those are. So 2 pieces of fabric, and I also cut 2 pieces of lining once again. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sew this zipper pouch the same way I have sewn the first one. So if you don't remember, you can go back to the beginning of the video or in the middle of the video where I showed you how to sew the zippered pouch. And we are finally done. I love how these 2 projects came together today. I was able to get it done in just one day. They're both simple projects. One gives you the simple look, and the other one is a quilted pouch. I love how I quilted this. It gives it more body and texture to it. And as a bonus, I know you enjoyed installing a zipper today. And you get to learn how to fuse and interfacing. So if you want more projects like this, you can follow us on YouTube at Classic Quilts Dubai, and you can also follow us on Instagram at Classic Quilts Dubai. And if you want to follow me as well on Instagram and on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel, a sewing blog, and an Instagram account. You can follow me at Sew It's Your Style. Alright, so I will see you soon, or next week, we don't know yet. Definitely, we will be offering you more tutorials on how to improve your sewing journey. See you next time. Bye!